Good evening and welcome to the April meeting of the Community Service Committee of the Common Council for the City of Norwalk. The time is now 7:12 and I'm calling the meeting to order with roll call. I see Councilperson Doug Sutton, Councilperson Dewan Wiggins, Councilperson Melissa Murray, and Councilperson Johan Lopez. We also have some city staff with us. Chief Daniels, is there anybody here for public comment? If there is somebody that wishes to speak, we will unmute you. Please state your name and your address, and please note you can only speak on an agenda item, and you have a 3-minute time limit. Chief Daniels?
Madam Chair, we do not have anyone in the public comment. The only two that are attending, I'll move them over, or our panelists to speak to two of the items that's on the agenda.
Thank you, Chief. So we will close public comment at this time. May I please have an approval of the minutes for the meeting from February 21st, sorry. Okay, I see Mr. Doug Sutton, Councilperson Doug Sutton, move those minutes. Any corrections, deletions? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Assigned. It is unanimous. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is discussion. We will have the updates from the health department, and following the updates from the health department, we will also have the updates from the Chief of Community Service.
Thank you, Councilperson. So I just want to make a quick announcement. We're excited that it's springtime and the weather is nice, and there are a lot of wonderful community events for the health department to participate in. So we hope that we see you and plenty of folks from Norwalk at the following 3 events that we'll be attending from the health department. So on April 27th, we will be at the Earth Day event at the Norwalk Town Green. Very excited about that. We have staff member partnering with the Bike Walk Commission, former chairperson Nancy Rosette, to do a walk from City Hall to the Green. There's several walks happening that day. And then the following weekend on May 4th, we have 2 different events that will be at. The first is the Norwalk for Mental Health with many of our community partners. It's a mental health and well-being walk and awareness walk and wellness fair. And so we'll be there supporting our partners and engaging with community members to find out how they, how we can serve them better in this area. And then also that day, there's an open streets event at Calf Pasture Beach Road, where there will be a bike rodeo and activities for kids to learn more about how to safely walk, bike, and roll around Norwalk in a way that doesn't require a car. So we're excited about all those different opportunities, and it kind of gives an idea for the breadth of public health, right? Because we have environmental health, we have physical activity and pedestrian infrastructure, we have mental health and well-being. So there's a lot of different things, and we're very excited about this season when there's more and more ways for us to get out into the community and work with folks. We hope we see you there. That's my update.
Thank you. Chief Daniels?
Thank you. So I don't have a lot of updates. I just want to say publicly and on record, I just want to thank you all for the hard work that you all had to go through, and as it relates to the budget process. As I was sharing with Mr. Sutton, Council Member Sutton, I said, I believe our departments are the heart of the city, because we really do strive to take care of our most vulnerable residents. As you all know, the city of Norwalk does not have a full comprehensive social service department like other cities or towns around the city. So we strive to do our very best with the resources that have been allotted to us. And I just want to highlight once again the work that we do in the Community Resource Hub, which is our 854-7999 number, where Norwalk residents can rely on their city to help them navigate the variety of resources and services that are offered to them here in the city of Norwalk and the region. And so, again, I just want to say thank you. I know it was very difficult, and I know you all had to make very difficult decisions. But I also want to urge you, as I pointed out, to please visit what we do. I know sometimes council members make decisions without really knowing what our department does. So I extend an open invitation to visit Room 202. You'll see many languages being talked about, because our city is a very diverse city. So you'll hear Spanish, you'll hear Haitian Creole, And also we have a language line, because we serve any resident in their native language if that's needed. And so with that said, again, thank you. And I just want to thank you again. I know it was very difficult, but also just want to admonish us all to let's not forget the voices of the unspoken who are often not as savvy to speak up for themselves. That's why this department is so critical, whether it's through the health department, our human services department, and of course our library, which is a pillar in our community. So with that said, that's my updates for this evening, and we look forward to going through the agenda items through you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Chief Daniels. The first action item we have is Community Service A. Authorize the Mayor, Harry W. Railing, to execute any and all agreements, documents, instruments, or amendments necessary to apply for and accept the School Readiness Grant, which includes the Quality Enhancement Grant from the period of July 1, 2024 to June 30th, 2025. Chief Daniels? You're
I was
muted.
on mute. I know, I try to catch myself fast. Hi, Carol, can you hear me?
Yep, good evening. I'm
Good
here.
evening. Please introduce yourself and can you speak to this item?
Sure. I'm Carol Carazelli. I am the School Readiness Liaison for Norwalk Public Schools. I work with the community, the early childhood programs that receive school readiness state funding. And this supports 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. We have 636 total school readiness spots in Norwalk, and that is throughout community programs, big and small, as well as some located in the public schools. And we are asking for Mayor Harry W. Railing to execute any and all documents necessary to apply for and accept the School Readiness Grant, which includes a School Readiness Enhancement Grant for the period of July 1, 2024 to June 30th, 2025. And this grant is for 6 million, whoops, just had it right in front of me. 6,256,000, and the quality enhancement is 37,688.
And Carol, this is an annual grant that we do every year, correct?
Correct. It is each year, and I believe it's been since 1998.
Yeah, so just for those that were new, just want to let some folks know this is an annual grant that the funding comes through the city as a fiduciary, then it gets dispersed for our little ones. Thank you, Carol.
Yeah.
Does any of my council colleagues have any questions for on this item? Councilperson Dewan Wiggins.
Hey, thank you, Madam Chair. So for this award, because I don't see much information on the agenda about this. I know you said it's a grant that's annually, but I'm just trying to figure out why is it not, laid out in the agenda, like what it is. I don't know if that's an error or, how much it is and so on and so forth. Like the other.
Are you asking for the backup information, Councilperson Wiggins?
Yeah.
Okay. Chief, can you speak?
Go ahead, Carol.
Oh, yes, I did share some basic highlights, but perhaps I'm not sure if it was shared with everyone. But the School Readiness provides affordable, high-quality early care and education services in high-need communities that help young children prepare for kindergarten. Norwalk has been part of the School Readiness since it began in 1998, and it has a total of 636 spots. This is a combination of full day, full year. So there's 520 full day, full year, and there's 116 school day, school year. The program funds spaces for children ages 3, 4, and 5 who aren't yet eligible for kindergarten. And 60% of the children enrolled must be at or below 75% of the state median income, and families must be a resident of Norwalk. So basically, this is helping to create quality early childcare at an affordable cost for families. And it's a 60-40 split. So every program has to have 60% of the families have to be at or below the state median, and 40% can be above. And this is calculation is given to us. It's guided by the OEC, the Office of Early Childhood. This is where the grant stems from, and also just whatever that year the current, SMI might be. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but I'm not sure if there's really more specific information I can give. The only other thing I can add is that all programs must be accredited by the National Association of the Education of Young Children. That is a national organization, and they come in and evaluate and look at programs. They look at curriculum, they look at staffing, credentials, how the program is run. That includes parent engagement. And all programs have to pass this accreditation. Plus, they all have to be licensed. Trying to think of what else might be helpful information, but I am open to any questions.
Well,
Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry. I wasn't just.
I'm asking that is your question, or did you have any follow-up questions?
Yeah, just to follow up. So it says on the agenda, it says apply and accept. So you guys have to apply it. Do it comes back, or just once it's here is going to the council? Because it says apply and accept. So you guys have to apply, and then we're voting all on that today, the applying and accepting it. All right.
No,
Correct.
well, so, sorry,
ahead,
Lamont, if I can jump in. Yeah, no, so there's a process where we have to present it to council because the mayor's signing it. So really what you're approving is for the mayor to sign it. Carol's the one who submits it, and she's actually a Norwalk Public School staff member, and she liaisons with our staff member, Mary Oster. So between the two of them, they monitor the majority of the programs in Norwalk and provide technical assistance, training, and really developing the standard of level of care with the Early Childhood Council. That's also Norwalk Community Providers. So this grant is routine in the sense that the state lets us know exactly how many slots, they approve the slots, they approve the programming, they do the accreditation. But the paperwork, Carol submits it, but the mayor has to sign it. And so that's what we're approving today.
Just to give some clarity to my colleague, as it is stating, we are authorizing the mayor to sign for them to apply and to accept. So you're reading it correctly. You are reading it correctly. Okay. Any other questions on this item? All in favor, could you raise your hand, please? All right, it looks unanimous. Thank you. Item B, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Railing, to execute any and all agreements, documents, instruments, or amendments to reappoint Family Children Agency, Inc. as the municipal agent for the elderly for the period July 1, 2024 through June 30th, 2025. Fiscal year 25, $163,000. Account noted. Chief Daniels?
Great. And Bibi, you want to highlight this?
Absolutely. So we talked about it, I think it was 2 meetings ago, Lamond. Yeah, so 2 or 3 meetings ago, we had a full presentation by FCA that outlined some of the data points. And just to reiterate, the services are for the senior case management services in that they help the seniors with rent rebate, they provide social opportunities, they will also refer to internal systems if the senior needs more intensive case management or have any additional needs that that FCA as an agency can provide, and also helps them with the Medicaid transition, answer insurance questions. So it's really a full scope service with the highlighting the rent rebate paperwork. And so we have that contract. Last time, if I remember correctly, the council was happy with the services as our department is happy with their services and the data that they provided about what they're offering to both the seniors in public housing and the seniors in the community. But we had originally thought to extend it for multi-year contract, but right now, today, in order to not uphold the contract any further, we put the language in to extend it for the year.
Any questions? Yes, Councilperson, Melissa Murray.
Yes, hi. I just have a question for my own education. I support this 100%. So this is just a quick education question. When elderly find themselves unhoused, and they're looking for housing, do we have elderly emergency shelters, or do they go to Open Doors? It's really a question. When I was looking at the Open Doors, is I was wondering, do we have specific for people who have needs at an elderly stage of life?
Separate, but in conjunction with my role here, I'm also chair of ODFC, Opening Doors Fairfield County, which is the regional coordinated access network for the sheltering system. The growing senior population that's entering homelessness is something that the system is looking at. There isn't like senior specific beds, but it is a population that the system is looking at to see if we can better accommodate it from a system perspective. What I can say is that the shelters all run independently, and so they have different opportunities for seniors. So some shelters, it's like individual rooms for individual. And then there's the dynamic, if a senior is attached to a multi-generational family, it actually all gets looped into a family unit, and so it's different depending on the situation. But to specifically answer your question, there isn't like a senior bed that's dedicated to seniors. It's just that they're in the designation depending on the dynamics. When the senior becomes homeless, changes what they would qualify for.
Gotcha. Thank you. And we'll talk about it another time. The
And Michelle
question
is
was
on,
that-
so she can add to it as well, when it's time, Council Member Murray.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. What caused the question is I've heard from, we have a few senior housing in our district, and we know that from talking to the management there, that sometimes situation changes. They're in stable housing, but for whatever reason need to be separated in that population and can't be there anymore, and they're not having runoff space. And so some have asked me about emergency sheltering, or they've set up areas that they consider sort of emergency shelter and have taken them in. And I'm seeing this and going, okay, so Family Children's Agency may be a resource for the families, but maybe something we talk about offline in our meeting, Chief Daniels, because I'd like to hear more about what we're thinking or what can be done.
Yeah,
But I would suggest,
hold on
sorry,
one
Lamont.
second. Yeah, but I think what's important is what is city service and then what is a community nonprofit. So we don't run the senior, all the senior service. Those are all independent services. What we do hope to do is advocate and make more visible the needs in our community, and whether that's having the city make some significant investment, working with our nonprofits to help them raise revenue to support these services. And I always like to speak to this because there's the city, Norwalk is unique in that the municipality, the money you all allocate, we don't provide that service. I think it's also important, there's a state statute of why we do have to identify a municipal agent for the elderly. So that's a mandated state statute that the municipality shall identify a municipal agent for the elderly. And in addition to Anna Vivian's point, it is around rebate, but it's really around low-income seniors. They have a place to go to where someone can help them figure out what's available. Similar to like our community resource hub, excuse me, this law actually carves out and says, we want the municipality to have someone that specializes in all things seniors. So FCA bidded for this and they were chosen as the city's agent for the elderly. And at this point, they help with our rebate, which is kind of our city program, but they also provide these intensive case management services, to your point, to help families and seniors figure out what's available. But I'll have to say that, you know, we can only figure out what's available if it's available, right? So it's that two-edged sword around helping families. This is where you can go to, but if the resource doesn't exist, then we're stuck, or we have to figure out or be creative or innovative. So I just wanted to highlight that a little bit, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I'm glad you did, because I have a feeling that some of the senior services are offering it, as you're saying, because it's not available. They're sort of offering it as like a side gig, but maybe they should get that information over to Children's Agency if they are doing that. And then there's the other point where they've talked to me about how do they get paid for this, because it's
Well, that's the $1 million question.
Yeah, and just like
everybody
you're saying,
wants to get paid.
Yeah. So you helped me understand where we are. So thank you. I appreciate both of your time on that.
Sure. And looking forward to talking with you again.
Yeah, me too.
You're
Oh,
muted.
you're on
Nicole.
mute, Nicole. Chairman Nicole.
I should have heard the pleasantness of my voice. It was wonderful. Okay. Councilperson Wiggins, you have a question?
Yeah, so this funding is really specifically going towards, just like you said, Lamont, just for the resources. So it's not providing any resources, just to basically do case management work. You're muted.
Lamont, you're muted.
And you may know this better than me. So because FCA also, in addition to their nonprofit mission, they are a nonprofit. The city has contracted them to be our vendor. So the seniors, which is why we chose them, the seniors now have access to their services, because they also provide senior services, mental health counseling, and the other services. Like Anna Vivian said, they presented almost 2 months ago, so please forgive me, I don't know all the different services. So they have a dual role. They are the city's municipal agent, case management, but then they can case manage the seniors into their array of services that they provide as an independent nonprofit providing senior services.
I do just want to also add that FCA has been expanding their senior services and their specialized senior services. So the city did make this investment and they have this contract, if you all approve it, to extend it for the next year. And it's a beginning point, so all seniors can get referred over to them. They start the process, they do an assessment with them, but they also received now DMIS funding to provide intensive case management for seniors that have substance misuse issues, along with behavioral health concerns, mental health concerns. And they also provide a third program that's intensive senior case management that can provide homemaking, companionship. So you can see that this is an entry point, which is one of the really nice things about the city partnering with nonprofits. Instead of providing the direct service, nonprofits can build on that initial city investment to extend their suite and get additional funding sources for services that they see the population needs. So I just wanted to highlight that although we're talking about one funding stream and one suite of services, FCA is doing their due diligence to expand what they're seeing and responding to the senior community and population that they're providing those services to.
Do you know, Anna Vivian, are they partnered with other agencies that, like, do they have direct access to what are some of them? I can't even think of them right now. The senior centers, do you know if they have direct partnerships with them?
Yeah, absolutely. So they'll refer over to the senior center and help provide Medicab, set up Medicab transportation. One of the nice things is that FCA had the ability to hire someone who had previously worked at SWACA, which is the Southwestern Agency on Aging. And so she has a real specialty with the regional services as well. And they're also choice certified, which is the insurance piece that gets really complicated for seniors in the Medicaid, Medicare, and supplemental insurance. So they have a specialty in all of those areas, but they do partner with all of the nonprofits, and they continue. So in my role as Director of Human Services, I also host a senior provider meeting where we, as a group, come together and talk about senior-related issues. And right now we're building out a system map, and FCA has been a leader in that process because they're so well connected with the other service providers.
Okay, last question. I'm sorry. I'm just I gotta get more familiar with this stuff. But
Absolutely.
This funding, and I think this is probably for Lamont. So is this is coming from the community service department, this funds? That's why we're here?
Yeah, so it's a state mandate. Prior to I was here, it lived somewhere else. Remember, I always want to remind everyone, we're 5 years old, so we're now walking. And so this funding moved under to my department, which is why we are presenting it tonight. But this funding has been here for 20 years. We now kind of, you know, under Anna's leadership, we're kind of being more specific around how we want you to use it, as opposed to just providing the service. And so to Anna Vivian's point, we get better at it every year, fine tuning how we want to use the money based on our own expertise and knowledge of our senior community, advising how our vendors, if you will, use the funding that they get from the city.
Yeah, that's definitely a benefit to have it specifically. Like, you guys can look at the details rather than before, which is kind of like thrown. So that's good. Thank you.
You got it. So great questions. It's important for you all to fully understand. So great questions.
I'm
Are there
loving just
any-
hearing how just how organized you all are on the map and the plan, and because I'm hearing these things in the district.
Shout out
It's
to
just
Anna
like-
Vivian.
Yeah, shout out to Anna Vivian, because when she said you have a map of it, I just thought, you know, because I'm hearing all this, like, one senior wants to learn to use the bus and isn't sure how to use the app, and then there's another one with insurance, and it's over here. And so when I use the word map, I was thinking that's exactly what I think, because it seems like a big puddle of how do you pull it together. So thank you for all that work.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
So okay, so it's time to vote. All in favor?
Madam Chairperson,
Oh, Mr. Councilperson Sutton, yes, you have a
I
question?
don't, I'm not sure. Can you see me at all on the
I
screen?
can't, but I can hear you.
Your video
Yeah,
isn't on,
I
Mr.
try-
Sutton.
I tried to recuse myself by blotting my picture, etc. I'm not sure how you do this because I can't get my picture back now. But I know the item speaks to assigning someone as the agent. But I'm thinking to myself, as an elderly, I imagine I'm supposed to recuse myself from voting on this item.
No, Mr. Sutton, you do not have to recuse yourself. The only time you would recuse yourself in this particular instance, if you sat on the board of Family and Children's Agency,
Okay. All right.
then you
Well,
would recuse
I
yourself.
won't recuse myself. How do I get my picture back?
On the bottom of the screen, there should be a camera. You need to hit the camera.
Yes.
Camera icon. Hit the camera icon. There you go.
There he
We see-
is.
Oh,
Oh wait, hit it again.
what did I do?
You hit it
I don't know, but
again.
hit it again. No, don't touch it. I see you. Don't touch it. You're lying in a
Sorry.
different color.
All right. So I could have been on the whole production then, I gather. Okay.
Okay, on this item, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, it is unanimous. Thank you. The next item. Why can't I read it? It says authorize the. Now I'm having computer problems. Cancel.
Madam Chair, would you like me to just read it to start it
Yes.
off?
Yes, please.
Okay. Authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute any and all agreements, documents, instruments, or amendments as may be necessary with Open Door Shelter, DBA Open Doors located at 4 Merritt Street, Norwalk, Connecticut, 06854 in the amount of $92,000 to provide shelter services to persons experiencing homelessness for Norwalk residents beginning June 1st, 2024 to May 30th, 2025. Account noted.
Thank you, Council Person Murray. So I just want to say before we allow the chief and his staff and whoever we have from Open Door Shelter to speak on this, we really need to know that homelessness is an issue, and we want to be able to provide our residents with a safe place as they are figuring out where they're going to land after homelessness. Most recently, I have tried to assist a resident to get housed who is homeless. And me and Chief Daniels have had numerous conversations connecting him to 211, connecting him to navigators, even going to appointments with him. And it's been about 3 months and we still don't have a bed. So this is a necessity to secure beds for Norwalk residents. Chief Daniels?
Thank you. And this actually connects to our earlier discussion, in particular, for some of our newer council members. So the city of Norwalk has a long-standing commitment to supporting individuals experiencing homelessness within our community. In line with the commitment, the Board of Estimate and Taxation, BET, through the Finance Department prior to my arrival, historically allocated funds, which was called the Social Service Grants Program, to support homeless shelter services. And again, now that I'm here, that line item has now been moved to my department. And so I am proposing to continue that same funding, as Councilmember Ayers pointed out, authorizing the mayor to execute the agreement with Open Door. One of the things that we've done internally, more as an internal department, where the city has historically funded these programs, we have been refining contracts to say, we're still going to give you the money, but we want to be very specific of how you use the funding. And so with this particular funding, and then Michelle can speak to it more, I know Anna Vivian knows this stuff too, that this money secures that when Norwalk residents are seeking shelter, and Michelle could speak to this, but I kind of want to just lay the context, that there's a system now that even for a Norwalk resident, they have to go through this system. This doesn't guarantee them staying in our city. And so while Michelle has always received this funding, we have asked Michelle that we want to target this funding to ensure that to the extent possible, that when a Norwalk resident goes through the system, and if the bed is in Stamford, Westport, Bridgeport, we want to make sure this funding is working diligently to keep them in Norwalk. So again, this is historical funding for 15 years. The funding is now my department. What Anna Vivian and I work to do is look at the funding, but really have honest conversation with the nonprofits that receive funding, but talking about how through our city, through our own kind of strategy, how to best use this money. So in talking with Chair Ayers, we are using this funding to support Norwalk residents to stay in Norwalk. And Madam Chair, through you, Michelle can briefly speak to the work. I think most of us are familiar with them, but definitely she's the executive director to speak to our partnership and how this funding will be helpful for our residents. Good evening, Michelle.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. Thank you to the council members, Lamont and Anna Vivian. I think Lavon did such a great job of outlining our request, but I think it's just important to note that Open Doors is the only operating homeless shelter in the city. We serve both individuals and families. We are funded with a mixture of we have federal dollars that flow through the state that I think 20 years ago, covered the cost of our shelter. Now cover about 40% of the cost because the numbers really have not increased. The state went through a rebid process in September with results in December. And of the 55 beds that we have, they are only funding 37. Which puts us in a challenging spot because it is the most expensive cost per client program that we operate because of the 24/7 nature of the program. And so we're really, we have received funds, right, from the city. As Lamont said, long outlasting both he and I. I predate him, I think, by a handful of months here in Norwalk. Because this is a community issue. This is something we have always worked collaboratively on to address the needs of this community. We're very committed to the Norwalk residents and making sure that they have access, but the state funding does require us to go through a certain process. Because they are now only covering 37 of our 55 beds, this allows us the opportunity to kind of hold 8 beds specifically for Norwalk residents, so that we can always ensure that we are prioritizing the people who live in this community, that they can be sheltered in their own community, because it is such a disruption, for individuals, certainly, but primarily, I will say, families to be, moved out of the city in which they were living when they are sheltered, and then hope to be rehoused back in the community in which they came from. But it can be very challenging for people. So we would deeply appreciate this, continuing collaboration between our two entities to meet the needs of these residents.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Back to Madam Chair.
Thank you, Chief. I have a question before I receive any other questions from my colleagues. Michelle, can you enlighten us? I know this will allow for 8 beds, but on an average monthly, you don't have to go too deep. How many Norwalk residents use the shelter in a month? Is 8 enough? I'm sure it's not. But can you give us
it's not.
I'll take more money.
Yeah, it's not. I tried to be kind.
You know, but you set yourself up for that.
Yeah. I would, it definitely ebbs and flows, right? And I will say, particularly on the family side, because there are so few family beds. And historically, families actually were the population that we were coming closest to ending family homelessness. Unfortunately, the last few years economically, I think, have driven a tremendous amount of families out, unfortunately, into the experience of homelessness, but doubled up as well. And so, I would say probably, I think somewhere around like 10 to 15 on average of our individual beds, right? Families, again, I wouldn't want to put a number on because it really does ebb and flow depending. The families tend to stay a little bit longer in shelter because there are less housing resources for them as there are individuals. So it's a little bit more challenging to find a good opportunity. Although I will give kudos to our Norwalk Housing Authority, who has created a lot of opportunities for families in particular experiencing homelessness to be rehoused back in Norwalk, because predating Soundview Landing in particular, majoritively families were being housed in Bridgeport because they had the most amount of units. So it's really been such a blessing to have these continual, and every time they develop something new.
Thank you so much for that information, Michelle. Are there any other questions from my colleagues?
I don't have a question, but I would like to commend you all because I think it's extremely important to really focus on keeping our families in Norwalk, because we know there's a surge of pushing families out, but the efforts in really keeping these families in Norwalk is pretty cool, because I'm pretty sure most people want to stay in a city like this and they don't want to go get pushed to other cities. So I think it's extremely important. I think hopefully we can get more money to kind of like, advocate for that, and all this new development. Hopefully you guys could partner with individuals from these new developments to, set aside housing specifically for this type of initiative.
Yeah, we're trying. Yeah, no, but I totally agree with you. I mean, I think Norwalk is a phenomenal city, and people deserve to be able to live in the city in which they grew up. Their families have lived here generationally, and we can see the difference in school outcomes, as they're pushed into other communities, and they're not positive. And so we want our families to be able to stay here. We want our individuals to stay here. We want, everyone who wants to live in the city to be able to succeed here.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions from any of my colleagues, all those in favor of this item, please raise your hand. Unanimous. I love it. I love it. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thanks, Michelle.
Everyone
You can
always
sign
does
off,
that
and
with my
Carol, you can
name.
sign off too if you want to. I see you still there too, Carol. You're welcome to sign off. Thanks.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I should have said that. I apologize. Okay, we're moving right along then. The Health Department, item A, authorize the Mayor, Harry W. Railing, to execute any and all agreements, documents, instruments, or amendments with Fairfield University as may be necessary to allow for students in the university's graduate and undergraduate programs to be placed at the Norwalk Health Department for internships and student learning opportunities. Chief Daniels?
Oops, I hit the wrong button. So we have Teresa Argandesi, our Assistant Director of Health for Community Health and Education. Teresa, I just gave you a new title.
I love it. I love it.
It's been a while. She's here to speak to those items, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Chief Daniel. So yeah, so the health department works really closely with a lot of our academic partners to bring students in for experiential learning, internships, fellowships, capstone placements, and some of those universities do require a written agreement. And so we're asking for authorization to renew an agreement that we had in place last year. And I'm bummed that I didn't catch it. It was only a 1-year affiliation agreement. And so we're hoping to get more of these in place and make them a little bit longer term so that we can continue to place students here at the health department.
Okay, I see Councilperson Melissa Murray.
Yes, my question was just to make sure it's broad enough, because I think this is a wonderful program and I'm super excited about it. But I noticed in the language in the contracts that it stated specifically for public health. I'm wondering for fields like health communication advocates, or there's a program at Fairfield University that's a certificate of social workers who work with the LGBTQ+ community. Was our language broad enough to be expansive to those programs? And then my second question, sort of same thing, was our language in the contract broad enough to not just encompass internships, but maybe service learning opportunities? And so you're shaking your head, so I'm assuming you know.
No, thank you for that. It's a great question. And again, we love to streamline this effort and make it all encompassing. Just so you know, the language that is in your packet is the template that Fairfield University uses. And so typically we'll defer to the university's contract, and then our legal, the corporation counsel will work with them to modify it to fit the city's needs. But we can definitely ask them if we can make it a more general to include different students. We know there's some, we have an affiliation with one university that requires a different agreement for their nursing program than they do for their public health program. And then we have another university that has a very broad and less specific language. So it really is about working with that academic partner, but we can definitely bring that back and ask them if that's something that we can do to broaden it so that other departments can bring those folks in too.
Wonderful. And then my follow-up question, I was partly also thinking about us. I don't know. I know in New York City, internships are paid. Are they paid here in Connecticut? Okay.
It
Because I know our
depends.
service learning
depends.
classes are not paid, which is probably why they use the term service learning. And I wanted to make sure it was broad enough for us to be able to capitalize on all those opportunities. So, and I just want to say, I mean, I have been in Fairfield University classes with the nursing and students, the health communication students, and it gives me such joy. I think it gives me so much hope in the world that these wonderful people will be who is serving us someday. So I think it's great, and I would love to see them around the health department more.
Thank you. Thank you for that feedback too.
Are there any additional questions? Yes, Councilperson Wiggins.
I've been talking a lot today. This is not like me, but I'm just usually only it's similar to the other ones. Usually we have, you know, numbers added to this. Is there a budget? So
No, there's no funds needed or exchanged anyway. It's just a affiliation agreement to allow the student to work offsite or to have an experience offsite placed within our organization. So it sets the framework and the expectations for what this host site is meant to do and how they protect their student and give them a good experience, and then how the university makes sure that they provide the same guidance and structure for the students so that the health department or other host sites would get the good guidance for their student.
okay,
And
thank you.
just for a point of clarification, Councilperson Wiggins, at the collegiate level, most internships, there is no exchange. You might do it for credits, or it might be a requirement. I know because we're in the same field, we use internships with the high schoolers and we pay them. But on the collegiate level, there's maybe can be paid, but it's not as common as we may think. Okay. Hearing or seeing no other questions, all in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, great. Let's move right along. Item B under the health department, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Railing, to execute any and all agreements, documents, instruments, or amendments with the American Heart Association as may be necessary to allow for the Norwalk Health Department to help distribute automatic blood pressure cuffs and educational materials at partner organizations and locations throughout the community. Chief Daniels?
This is still Teresa, so we'll refer to our Assistant Health Director.
Thank you, Chief Daniels. So we have a great relationship with the American Heart Association. We do a lot of work with them on different programs, and they approached us because of some of our chronic disease screening and prevention programs, and said that they had this opportunity to provide communities with blood pressure cuffs, similar that an Omron cuff that you can put on yourself and measure your blood pressure at home or off-site, and not necessarily at the doctor's office. And they felt like it was really important to make sure that the cuffs are placed in strategically throughout the community with good community partners who community members had access to. And so they came to the health department to say, can you help us determine the best places and work on arranging for these blood pressure cuffs to go out into the community. And then the exciting part about the partnership, in addition to free blood pressure cuffs for our community members, is that they'll work really closely with us on the educational materials and the information that will go with those cuffs, so that when a person takes a measurement, they understand what it means, and understand the importance of connecting with a healthcare provider if they have any concerns, and things that they can do in their everyday lives to manage their blood pressure and make sure that it doesn't increase over time. And there's no funding exchange in this process at all. It's the American Heart Association's partnership agreement for this particular program to allow us to receive the blood pressure cuffs and then work with our partner agencies and organizations to get them out to the community.
Wonderful. Any questions? Okay, all in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, great. And our last action item is authorize the mayor, Harry W. Railing, to enter into a contract with Daydream Communication in an account not to exceed $35,000 from grant account number noted for the development and implementation of the original public health communication campaign. Teresa, is this you too?
Yes,
It is. Thank you so much, Madam Chair. So the health department here in Norwalk, along with most of the other local health departments throughout the state, last year received some funding to supplement our vaccination services, both in the delivery of vaccine and the provision of vaccine to the community, but also in a specific carve out for media and communications around increasing awareness about where people can go get vaccinated if they're interested. And so because our towns are so close together and we know our residents drive from one town to eat dinner in another town or to work in a third town, many of the health departments kind of got together and said, we all have this funding allocation for communication. And we know from a health communication standpoint, the importance of a unified message, and that people need to see a message multiple times for it to really register with them and for them to recognize it and act on it. And so wouldn't it be great if we could all join forces and create a campaign that would be recognizable and unified across our region? And so several health departments, I think we're up to 8 now in Region 1, have decided to join forces and hire the same firm to do the campaign across the region. And we talked really specifically about making sure that there's a unified message and that the materials look the same, have the same feeling and the same evidence-based information, but that in our individual towns, we can make sure that they are customizable and able to be targeted specifically to the needs of our individual communities. So recognizing that it's important to have a unified message, but that all of our communities are a little bit different. We wanted that flexibility to be able to do that, to have the best of both worlds. And so the health departments that were interested in collaborating spoke to a couple different firms and decided that this firm had the best options for us for a pretty complicated and regional campaign. And so in order for Norwalk to be able to participate in this regional effort and kind of leverage our small piece of the funding to a larger campaign, we would need to work with that same agency. And so that's why we're here today.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Councilperson Melissa Murray?
And sorry, and this is going to be vaccination messaging, correct?
Yes.
So I think this is wonderful. And I think that there's probably other priorities that you could think of messaging you might need down the line. Is there plans for, other health priorities besides just vaccination? Because this is such a great program.
Yeah, we really hope so. I mean, this is a great opportunity to engage with community members and hear from them about what information they're looking for, where they get their information, what messages resonate the most with them. And then we can also apply that to a lot of other health topics as well. Hopefully we'll get additional continued funding for those other health topics as well.
Fantastic. And is there any money to do this in a few different languages, or is it just
Yes.
What are we looking at? Yeah.
Yeah, so we definitely talk to the agencies about different languages, not only multilingual, but multicultural, right? So we want to make sure that the images, that the people, that they're culturally appropriate considering, our different communities. So we're definitely, Spanish and Haitian Creole, we've already elevated to the level where the agency has said they're on board with that. There's some of the other, it's interesting, some of the other towns in our area, in the region have asked for other languages. And so we're very fortunate that the agencies involved, are able to provide those services. But that was one of our first questions in the conversation.
And what is this going on? Is this all social media, or is it like billboard?
I think the specifics are yet to be confirmed, but there will be a social media component. We expect there to be display ad component, whether it's billboards or bus wraps or bus shelter posters, that sort of thing. And we're hoping there will also be some earned media as well. So newspaper, journalism, that sort of thing.
I think it's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous. Great. May I have a motion to adjourn? Oh, Councilperson Wiggins gave a motion to adjourn. Thank you guys for your time
Listen,
tonight.
thank you all so much.
I never
tonight.
get the
Thank you so
honor.
much.
But you got it tonight. There you go.
I got it tonight.
Thank you for your support. Have a great evening, everyone.
Be
Thank
safe,
you.
Nicole. Have fun.